contractors. Very involved with the roofing industry in South Florida as far as codes go, and I am also on the Building Code Advisory Board, so we help people out.
Wow. And Matt?
Yes, thanks for having me. Matt Criswell. I own Weather Shield Roofing Group, and I also own Marathon Roofing and Contracting. Again, I'm a third-generation Floridian.
Nice.
1879 family. I don't know when your family came. I, too, am on the board of directors for FRSA, and I am the incoming president, so looking forward to some issues we're going to talk on today.
Wow, yes, some really important issues. And as you all know, yesterday on Coffee Conversations Live here also, we had manufacturers, distributors, Trent Cotney, John Kenny were on here yesterday, and they talked about, we're going to ask the same questions. We want to know what's happening, but we wanted it from two different perspectives. So today we're really going to be talking from the contractor perspective of people who are very involved, as you can hear, in the market. So, you know what, David, I'm going to start with you. What are you seeing right now in the Florida market?
Down in Southwest Florida, where I'm centrally located, I do a combination of residential and commercial roofing, and I do a lot of new construction. So right now, which seems to be driving my backlog right now, is the bid market is still very, very strong, and I have an awful lot of work under backlog. So I have not seen it slow down as far as business development goes, and I'm sure we'll get into this later, but getting materials is another challenge. But right now the market, at least down in Southwest Florida, is strong.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we keep hearing some naysayers, some things, and not that we shouldn't listen of what's coming out there, but in the roofing industry it seems like things are going good. In fact, Wayne Hieronymus just went by. He's down from your part of the state, and he said that they've decided they're just not going to participate in any downturns. So I was like, okay, that's good. Let's go with that. Bridget, what are you seeing?
We're going to choose to not participate in downturns as well. So I think that's a great idea. As far as the market goes, we're a smaller roofing company, and we do a lot more repairs than we do re-roofs, and we don't do any new construction. So what's interesting is our re-roof market has gone up while our repairs have gone down, and I'm speaking residentially, not commercially. And that has been very, very interesting. And again, we'll get into that with the insurance and how that's forced many people's hands. So that's kind of the trend that we've seen in the market, is that people are being forced to replace versus repair. Mm-hmm. And that has a whole bunch of impact to different things with non-renewable resources. I could go on and on. But that's how we're seeing it, is that there's that switch, which is being controlled by insurance companies, things like that. But as far as the repairs go, and what we're seeing with that market is there's a lot better roofs being put on. So the repairs that are being done most of them aren't from terrible workmanship, where those used to be, hand over fist they would come in. Now the repairs that we're getting are legitimate, regular wear and tear, a squirrel that has a problem and decides to destroy something, branches, things like that. So that's kind of what we've seen is I think that the Florida contractors have stepped up their game. And so that's always great. Like, we always want to make money off of repairs, but not because somebody else didn't do their job properly.
Right. And, this is one of the things we really didn't have on here, but to that point, there hasn't been a lot of storms.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of changed things a little bit up too.
It has. And with the new codes, even when we do have the storms, it's interesting what we've noticed. There's not as many windstorms, but the amount of rain that we're getting all at once is a whole new ball game. And that's been super interesting with repairs, telling people this is a wall problem. And no, water's not supposed to be going up your wall. No, your architect did not make a mistake. No, the builder did not make this house wasn't supposed to have this type of rain.
Yeah.
And explaining that to somebody and letting them understand that, we're going to have to find a workaround and find a way to keep the water from coming in. But it's been interesting. The weather patterns changing. It's been fascinating.
I can't believe the amount of rain we've seen this week. It's crazy. No wonder it's so green and humid.
Well, to expand on what she said, it is really, to expand on what she said, that is really the crux of the problem, because they're building the buildings better, but they're having not roof problems, but wall and window problems.
Yeah.
And I get called out a lot of times, and they're saying my roof's leaking. And I'm like, well, it's not raining.
Yeah.
And then when you get out there, especially like quadruplexes on flat roofs and all that, it's usually the air conditioner leaking.
Yeah.
And when you tell them that it's the air conditioner, they go, "I'll call the next roofer," and that's a problem. They don't want to hear, water coming in. It's always our fault.
They just want it fixed.
They want it
Yeah.
fixed.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because it's coming from up top.
Exactly.
Roof, yeah.
Because roof installations are really good. I mean, some of the materials are hard to get, and I'll expand on the re-roof market in South Florida is very vibrant. I mean, there's a lot of good projects going, new construction and re-roof. The big problem, like you said, was material.
Yeah.
Especially
all of the material.
Yeah.
You get a lot of one, but one component's missing, so that's
Well,
Yes.
you can't put it on.
Well, just to talk about that,
Yeah.
I'm in the build-up market. We do commercial and condo, and the first thing has to go down is the insulation. ISO board, you can't even get it.
Right.
I mean, I go down 95 and I see a semi pulling ISO board down. I'm like, oh, is that going to my job? Oh, I'm going to follow it.
That's right.
And find out
Where's the golden ticket being down the road? Like, ooh.
Yeah.
I know.
But
Wow.
and that's the basis. So if you don't have that, you can't start.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the building owners don't understand that, and they think that we're just not paying attention to them. And what I try to explain to them is that we want to do your work.
Right.
We want to do it, and we want to move on to the next job. And when we can't get the material to start, it's not our fault. And it's that trickle-down effect. It's not the roofer's fault. It's not the supplier's fault. And it's not the manufacturer's fault. It's materials, the raw materials and everything.
All right.
We're not buying them a lot in this country, so what happens is we have to rely on foreign people.
Yeah.
Then we had that freeze out in Texas, and that
Yeah.
Resins.
Yep, and that really messed up the foam market
Yeah.
as far as roof tile and everything. So it's been a lot of perfect storm.
Perfect storm.
Yeah.
Series of unfortunate events.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
And a
right.
little thing called COVID on top of it.
Right.
I know. Matt, what are you seeing?
Saturation.
Ooh.
Lots of saturated market. Seems, I'm sure it's with every industry, but seems that there's anybody and everybody that can put a roof on goes and puts a roof on. And a lot of them won't be here tomorrow. A lot of them are just working out of their shop. It goes back to material. Material's the biggest player right now. And you said something that really sparked me. I was going to chime in, but I wanted to wait. You said roofs are really made real well, better than they were 25 years ago. So much research and development has gone into it. You got quadruple the nails on the decking now. You got double layer of insulation most of the time. And so roofs should last more than 25 years.
Right.
All these insurance guys are forcing it to get torn off every 10 years with the insurance companies, and that's become a big problem.
That's it.
Yeah.
That.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And we're going to come back to materials because I want to talk about that again. But let's just, since we're here, and
Yeah.
let's go with that. Let's talk about this because this is a huge issue in Florida.
It is.
What's happening with the insurance? And we had a great podcast.
We did.
And you talked about it a lot on there.
Great for you and I. Some people might not like it, but great for you and I.
You know what?
Yeah.
We're gonna bring the issues up.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about them. So
Yeah.
what are you seeing? And especially you're going to be the incoming president.
I am, and it's one of my initiatives is this, and I want to preface this whole conversation with, I'm not telling the insurance guys that work just doing insurance to go out of business. I'm not asking for that. I don't think the industry as a whole is asking for that. But there's rules and regulations for a reason. We've got to all play by the rules and regulations to be on fair ground. We need to, that strictly work on door knocking and I'm going to get you a free roof because that's how I can make the money, is not how we need to do roofing. Roofing is cyclical. Mm-hmm. When you take the cyclicality out of it,
Yes.
that component, then now it's roofs that are structured to be done every 10 years and we have a big slump. Roofs are put on, there needs to be a continuous path. What's going to happen in 10 years?
Right.
We're going to go through, I think, my personal opinion, this same type of material shortage because the roofs that are getting put on now, good materials, they're done the right way, but they're not being put on the right way because they're subbing out the labor part of it.
Yes, that portion of it.
Yeah. So insurance has to get changed. There has to be reform. Has to happen sooner than later.
So what is Joe? As as the current president, and then, I mean, you two really, on the executive team of FRSA, you have a lot going on to really address this, right?
We do.
What are some of the things that FRSA is doing to help try to change this?
Well, legislative, we have, Chris Dawson. He's the head of our fight. And,
Our political action committee.
Yeah.
And so, he keeps us in tune with the bills that are being introduced and, what it's going to mean to us as contractors and for the general public, and like Matt said, one of the problems we have out there is as contractors, we're trying to sell the best roof possible. And I can tell you my strategy is to go before these homeowners, board members, or whatever, and give them the good, better, best idea.
Yeah.
And that way, and I can explain to them, good is good, better is better, best is best. But when you start explaining the length of the life of the roof, the expectancy, that's where people will say, "Oh, I do want the best, but I don't want to pay for that. I want to pay for the cheaper, but I want the best." We all know it doesn't work that way.
Can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. but the thing for me is, I mean, like Matt said, they're making some of these people tear them off at 10 years. When all these roofs are going to last a minimum 20 years if they've been installed properly.
Right.
And so, myself, I've gone to the environmental side. I figure I want to, dust them up and get them on board.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, all this stuff's going to the landfill and it doesn't need to.
Right.
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
And I have business insurance. I have homeowners insurance. So I have a metal standing seam roof on my house. I know I don't have to do anything for that for the next 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
If I'm still around.
Yeah.
But, these homeowners that these insurance companies are telling them, you got to tear that roof off. He just put a good roof on it. 10 years later, they're telling you can do it.
Right.
Or Matt can do it.
Yeah.
That's what's got to stop. And the free roof, there's no such thing.
No such thing. That's so annoying. Well, and the environmental ramifications is what absolutely blows my mind. Is we're obviously not the most green industry. Obviously.
We're not the most green country.
True. But the amount of waste of, I've had crews that have literally called me from the rooftop like, we're at the wrong house. No, you're not. Yes, we're at the wrong house. This is a perfectly fine roof. I know. But you have to tear it off. But it's going to be impossible to even get these shingles off. Like, this is I know. And it's heartbreaking because you realize that this is the homeowner's money gone. Yes, we have a business, but it's not the right way, and it's not the mojo that we want.
Right.
And you see these dump trailers full to the brim of this non-renewable resource, and you know where it's going, and you know that you can't do anything about it. And as the new truck pulls in with all the new stuff that how it was produced, and you're thinking, none of this was for the right reason.
Right.
None of it was for the right reason. And I think that, one of the most important things with our political action committee and making sure that the roofers are the ones that are making the decisions on these roofs, not somebody who is, no offense to white collars, but no, you're in an office. Have you been on a roof? Do you know?
Right.
Do you know what any of these words that you are putting out actually mean? And it's so super important for us to make sure to have our hands in that, so that way we're in control of the roofing industry. We're in control of the rules when it comes to roofs, even with insurances. And we're members of Greater Tampa Realtors because we do a lot of work with realtors, but their political action committee feels the same way that the roofing industry does, actually.
Yeah.
They don't like the free roofs. That's something that they actually go to bat for us as a roofing industry, and we don't even realize it. But it's really neat to see the two different political action committees have the same end goal, which is protecting the homeowner. Right. At the end, the end game is protecting the homeowner.
Exactly.
I think David and I do a lot more. I do more commercial, bar none. I might only do dollar-wise, single-digit percentages based on my commercial. Do you get insurance claims for commercial work?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
We get a couple a year.
Yeah.
It's also not what we go after, but
Right.
we only get a couple a year.
Well, that's what I was curious on that. Thank you. That's exactly where I was going to go. It's like, we're talking a lot about residential.
Yeah.
But what are you seeing with this on the commercial side, David?
Well, I don't want to drop the residential side yet because I want to chime in
Oh.
because
Good, please.
I have not seen it brought up on this committee or on today's podcast.
Yeah.
The insurance companies cause their own problems here. They just have.
Yeah.
You guys,
Yes, they have.
everybody knows in the roofing industry when there's a claim made, how much money the insurance companies are paying. we all know how much money it is.
Yeah.
We all as that's why they call them stormers. They run around the country chasing storms because the insurance companies pay twice as much as they should. And in the end result is you and I as homeowners end up paying that. You know, and they want the roofs replaced in 10 years. You know why? Because it costs them a lot of money. So let's just replace them every 10 years.
Yeah.
Isn't that their goal? So that the roofs don't blow, because it's all about money, isn't it?
Sure.
It's all about money.
Yeah.
But yet they pay double and triple the value of a roof when you replace it.
Because we want a qualified roofer to put it on, we'll pay more.
And then a sub does and it's crap.
I've seen commercial, it's even worse.
Oh.
I've seen it. I've seen some of those rates that the insurance companies will give you for a re-roof for
1,000, 1,200,
per
1,400
square foot of a tear-off or something, and all of a sudden you find 3 roofs piled up.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're in the millions rather than in $100,000.
Wow.
And it's just such a problem caused by the insurance company.
Sure.
That they to me they should swim in it. I mean, again, I'm held responsible when I do something wrong.
Right.
I don't know why the insurance companies aren't held responsible.
How are they going insolvent is my question. Are they writing bad policies, or are they overpaying and the kitty's getting too low and they're protecting their you-know-whats?
Well, yeah. Are they going insolvent, right? When's the last big city you guys drove through and the tallest building in downtown Dallas or Chicago or New York? They're all insurance companies.
Yeah.
I don't see tall roofing
that's a
companies.
valid point.
I just
Wait
don't
a
see
minute.
70-story roofing company. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Right? I see the insurance companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
And who's sponsoring all the bowl games and stuff like that?
Right.
Football games.
Yeah.
They're all
they're
there.
going broke. I mean,
Right.
I would like to go that broke.
I know, right?
One of the things that I've seen, one of my very first shows in the roofing industry was when I came to Florida, and that was right after Hurricane Andrew. Malarkey kind of came into this because they had the wind, the 100-mile-per-hour wind, and they were talking to insurance companies then, trying to get some of these things changed, and it's just taken so long. And it's still not happening. You might need to raise your mic a little bit. There you go.
Listen, I also understand that an 18 or 19-year-old roof and a storm comes by and the insurance company doesn't feel that they really should have replaced it, but yet they have no problem taking your premium every month. You know, they have no problem taking that. And I'm sure some insurance reform will be looking at that, maybe something after 10 years of depreciating something to make it more equitable to both the insurance company and for the homeowner.
For a homeowner,
but
right.
Again, at the end of the day, it isn't the roofers or the homeowners that cause this problem. It's all been the insurance company, at least in my eyes.
Yeah. No, I hear this all the time. So I think I just want to go back, Bridget, what you were saying too is about really bringing multiple industries together and to go and start fighting this on a state level. And that's really FRSA and the realtors. I love that. I think that's so important. Advocacy and having people involved in advocacy is key. I know Tammy Hall, who works with you, David, she is chair of the National Roofing Contractors Association Government Affairs. We have the FRSA that is doing all these things. How are you... I just kind of want to come back to that. What do you think the industry needs to be doing more to kind of start getting our voices heard even on a larger level?
I think as far as roofing goes, and again, I grew up in the industry, so I see how, and I love that you guys have the roofing respect, and there's this connotation with blue collar and tradespeople that we are not as high up as the insurance companies with the bowl games, which, by the way, SRS Heritage did bowl games. Let's toot their horn for a minute. I was love to see that. But I think one of the things is that we are a force to be reckoned with in a good way, that we want to benefit our communities, our states, and our national rules. But with that, I think that, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but perhaps our RPAC, our political action committees, can look at what other huge organizations have that same. There's a lot of us that have that same end game, and why are we not joining forces? Here are the realtors, here are the roofers, here are, I'm sure there's other industries out there that all want the same thing, and if we're all each paying our lobbyists, and these lobbyists are just going and picking at little things, but if they join forces, and we join forces as these large groups of people who have a smarter understanding of home ownership, I think that would make a huge impact.
I do too.
Yeah.
And involvement in your local community. I get involved with the building officials. I'm a member of the BOAF, Building Officials Association of Florida, and I go in and I talk to them all the time about all these code changes they're wanting to come up with. I'm like, code changes are well and fine, but getting them installed properly and everything is a big thing. In Palm Beach County, in the last 10 years, they've gotten rid of all the tech schools, so there's no more tech schools.
Yeah.
They got rid of shop classes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I'll use myself as an example. When I was in high school, I'll tell you what, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do, but I went to shop class, my favorite class.
Joe and I both, 4 years of shop class as well.
Yeah.
Joe shop, and
Yeah.
we don't have it anymore.
Yeah, and that's what inspired me going to work with my hands.
Right.
Now, my brother, on the other hand, he wanted to not go to school. He hated school. He became a professional student.
Right.
I went out and worked with my hands.
Yeah.
But those options are drying up. And even with the apprenticeship programs that we've started through the FRSA and Associated Building Contractors, that's a start. But we need to get more of our companies to put the employees in there to get them trained.
Yeah.
Because not to say anything bad about thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Not to say anything bad about the contractors, but we all basically go through the same employees. It's like a carousel.
We trade them.
And you're right. And one thing I always say is, why don't we train these people?
Right.
Because they're going to work for David one day, they're going to work for Matt next day, or whatever.
Yeah.
At least they're trained. The apprenticeship programs are not trying to steal employees or train for somebody else. There's a company in Fort Lauderdale, Advanced Roofing, that really got involved with the apprenticeship program. In Palm Beach County, I tried to do it in the 80s and in the 90s, and we got it all set up, no participants, which is really poor. And most of the excuse was, we don't want you training our guys to take them away from you. That wasn't the intent.
Yeah, and that is changing. People are realizing now we got to stick together on all this.
We do.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very important. Because don't you want to train them? Even if you do it in-house, it would be better than just getting them off the street. I hate to say this, and I don't know if I can, but I don't want no Home Depot or Lowe's guys that are standing out there looking for a day.
Right.
Put my
Day laborers.
$100,000 roof on,
No, thank you.
It actually comes back to training and what we're talking about, and the pro certification and that everybody's involved in, and what Florida has been doing with apprenticeship, I think, is a major thing. So I'm going to take that topic. I'm going to come back over here, David. Talk about what you're seeing, training and labor.
Well, a couple of things just to expand on what Joe was saying. I think the training obviously is important, but one of the legislative things that we were looking at when we went out, we had the roofing day in Washington, D.C., which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's the first time I attended this year, I had a great time, and I'd be surprised if I don't not return.
Right.
Which I really enjoyed it.
It was
but
great.
one of the items that was really that we were pushing was there is so much money given to the kids graduating from high school going on to college. 99% of that money is geared towards that and nothing geared towards the tradespeople, right? So yes, training is important, but it does cost money. And when I invest money into an employee, I'm worried about so-and-so stealing them. That gets really, really expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and then I think the stat, if I remember right, was 30% or 35% of the college students or first year drop out.
Drop out.
But there's no money for them to go and to get trained, and so I think that's really, really important, is staying involved at your local association, at state level, at the national level, and follow this legislation because we need the money as bad as any college student because
I would say not even as bad. I think more
so, because the
trade
tools
needs more.
Absolutely.
The colleges are making hand over fist money, and they're getting grants.
Right.
No trade. The trades aren't getting any of that.
I did
getting
both.
a grant for a roofing apprenticeship program. It's like pulling hen's teeth. I mean, they don't want to give the money up.
Well, when I went to USF, and I always joke because my career of choice was teaching. My career of birth is roofing. So my parents' dream was for neither one of them attended college, so their dream was for their children to go to college, as most parents' dreams are. Right. Yes, your child's in an air-conditioned setting. It's wonderful. It's nice and clean, but going to college was so easy, for me at least, once you get in. Obviously, it's a little difficult to get in. But once you're there, there's scholarships, there's this, there's people helping you. Right. Going to contractor school, way different. And it was such a different mentality, too, because in college, it's all young people, and you're all, not the brightest bulbs in the sky at that moment because you're growing, you're learning. And then, go to contractors exam school where it's a wide array of ages, mostly men, of course, but a lot of people taking everybody under their wing, or how can I help you, or what do you mean you don't understand, let me help you. And I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of support that I felt more so at contractor school than I did in college by my peers. Peers being other contractors.
Right.
So, but yeah, and there was no money. It's, do you have the $1,500 at the time, long time ago, to buy all of your books?
Yeah.
Do you have the gas money to drive there? Can you have your full-time job and still go? So yeah, there needs to be the funding needs to be there.
Yep.
And there's some, but not.
And and that's really, to your point, that is what's happening with this roofing day in DC nationally. Florida, I believe, is looking at a roofing day, right? Or
I think they have.
We're working on it right now.
Working on one,
Chris Robinson's trying to put it together. Years ago we used to travel up there for different bills. We'd all crowd into the Tallahassee with our 2x4s with our shingle nailed on it, trying to get the point across. But we are definitely working on it now.
And I think that's really important when we look at this, because it kind of goes back to, okay, we've talked about insurance now, we've talked about labor, about the need for trades and for apprenticeships and for just CTE overall career. It all goes back to having a voice and to doing what you all are doing right here, being those leaders and getting involved. So let's I'd love that. Let's go and let's talk a little bit about the one we started out with, material shortages. So,
our favorite topic, isn't it?
Favorite topic. I'm going to start with you on this one. I mean, how are you handling it, and what do you see?
Handling it has been tough. It's like to have a conversation yesterday. I used to say I'm a part-time roofer, part-time weatherman. So I'm always watching the weather. Now I feel like I'm three parts. I'm part-time roofer, part-time weatherman, and now I'm a logistics director. Trying to figure out, stealing from Peter to pay Paul. How can I get this customer? We've got one I won't mention, but they gave us a letter that says we're canceling our contract because you can't get it done in 7 months. It's like the order's in, it's 800 squares. The order's in. I can't just do little bits and pieces of it. They wanted us to do 175 squares. We did it for them. We had to find the material all over the place, paid top dollar for it. Can't do that and stay in business. So, shingles for us has been very easy. TPO, ISO, screws, plates. It's been difficult's not the right word. It's just challenging. Been challenging.
What are some of the alternatives that you've been using when you can't get that?
EPS. I think GAF's just getting an approval now. EPS, Secure Rock,
lightweight concrete.
Yeah, lightweight concrete,
that's what I've been hearing too.
self-adhered.
Yeah.
So, but the self-adhered is just the same price as PVC. So why don't we just use PVC now? Because they've got that stocked up everywhere. So, it comes down to price. So you got an alternative, but it's more expensive. So there's got to be a give and take. And again, who bears the burden of it? It's the customer.
On the commercial side, I mean, I know you guys are both commercial, and David, you're seeing, what are some of the changes you've made around material shortages?
Well, you got to stay fast. That's for sure. Specifications, you got to stay flexible on specifications. And what I found really the most important thing is just educating the owner. Educating the owner is your first battle. And then there's some owners that just don't believe you and will hang up and try somebody else, and they'll eventually figure out that what you're telling you is the truth. But primarily you're right. It's the low slope commercial market is where I have the sleepless nights.
Right.
Whereas metal products and shingles and concrete tile, that's really not been an issue as of late. That's been at least manageable and controllable. We're getting through that. It's just the low slope commercial products. But changing from TPO to PVC, changing from TPO to mod bits, insulations from pouring lightweight concrete, sometimes skinning a roof and putting a cover board over the top of it and retaining some of the ISO. Sometimes it really doesn't make sense to tear off a whole bunch of ISO and put the same ISO back down. I know there's a little loss of thermal value there, but in today's world,
that's a good alternative.
It's either leaking inside or it's not going to leak inside. Which do you want?
That's right. And so trying to think some of the other changes, going from getting rid of the screws and going fully adhered.
Yeah.
There's just
Got to think outside the box.
Yeah,
got to think outside the box.
stay out of the box.
Flexible and creative. Those are the things that I've been hearing as you've been going through this. What are you seeing on the residential side, Bridget?
I gotta say, this is where we're a small company, and this is where being small is super helpful. It's not been too heavy of a burden for us, because we are able to steer our customers one way or another. And again, we're not ordering truckloads of things, so being able to procure smaller amounts is a lot easier. So this is one of those things where, I mean, when I look at all of my big companies that we're friends with, I mean, it just breaks my heart for you guys, because to sit there and have work on the wall, people willing to work, and nothing to actually do it with has got to be incredibly tough. But our mainest, good gravy, our greatest concern was customers being able to get the right shingle color when they were down to just doing certain colors. So that was super interesting, and I learned a lot about the customers, about how important color is to some and how unimportant it is to others.
Right.
I never really realized the dichotomy and how extreme they both are.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we will wait 6 to 8 months to get this one particular IKO. Okay, that's great, and they'd call me every month. Is it there yet? No. Still 6 months out. Okay, now it's 5 months out. And so, but having those relationships with the different manufacturers, and all of the reps have been great with keeping people informed, or at least with me.
Sure.
I would assume with you guys as well.
Yeah.
Which is great, because everyone's in the same boat, and all the reps have been just wonderful with, do you want me to call your customer? You know what, no, I've got this. But, them offering to fall on the sword for you.
Right.
Like, it's not Bridget, it's us.
Bridget, we've offered that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk to your tenants, or I can talk to your building, whatever it is. Let them know. I mean,
Right.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah.
And
And it's not this person's fault, that
Right.
person's fault.
And I can chime in a little bit on that, because I got a drawer full of things from the manufacturers and suppliers with the price increases. So when I have the people call me up saying, well, why are the prices going up? I'll email you my lists. I mean, it's all of them. It's GAF, Owens Corning, anybody.
All of them.
Everyone. I mean, and then a lot of times on these projects, when you actually bid the project, by the time you get the material, if you don't have an escalating clause in your contracts, you're out of luck.
Yes.
But you should always have that, because we have no control. And that's what I tell my customers and clients. We do not control the market. It's that trickle-down effect.
Right.
And unfortunately, like you were saying about the shingle color, I was on a community the other day. It was supposed to be a flat tile, and it was 10 months out for that color.
Wow.
And it became not a problem. They said, what's available? And they didn't like any of the colors. And then I thought, well, you could go to a clay tile. And they're going, oh. And then I showed them some samples of clay tile. And they switched just like that, because it was more available. We got it within 8 weeks. And the project went forward. And it looks a lot better to the community and to the people. They came out as the heroes.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of movement. That's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
that people have to, again, flexible,
You gotta
creative.
adapt.
You have to move and think, and that's a little bit of a change, probably from maybe pre-COVID years past, when there was just some very strong loyalty, like this is what we use, this
Right.
product. That's kind of gone away now, and we were talking about that yesterday in the coffee conversations. How have you been, David? I'm gonna start with you again. How have you been kind of building those relationships and maneuvering that way? Because the loyalties have changed, and how you work with manufacturers and distributors has changed a little bit.
Well, internally, we've always enjoyed some good relationships with certain vendors, and we kind of stay loyal to them, and they stay loyal to us. And so what we're finding right now, and I'm assuming, Matt, you might be finding the same thing, those ghost orders show up.
Yeah.
Whereas I put an order in, I'm told it's 8 to 10 months out, and all of a sudden 4 months goes by, and they say, oh, by the way, I can fulfill that order now. And that was because roofing contractors have placed orders,
Right.
never canceled them,
Right.
they just
Right.
kept coming, switched it over to an EPS or a lightweight
Whatever,
concrete
yep.
specification, and all of a sudden the materials are there. Just all of a sudden they're there. Now, there's no planning for that. Escalation's still an issue. There's still issues with that. But so we've been getting materials,
Ditto.
but it's you got to be quick there too.
Yeah.
And you might not be the whole job, so you've got to buy it and store it for a little bit.
Yep.
Well, and that's just it. Us commercial guys, I can't store it.
Yeah.
My yard isn't big enough to store
Right.
14 acres of
Yeah.
ISO.
Right.
Just forget it.
Yeah.
Just, the truth is the truth.
Right.
It's not available, and when it is, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the story that's being told. So enjoying the relationship with your distributors.
Yes.
Because when something becomes available, they pick up the phone, they call us.
Yeah. And also
So
it's
then
there.
I have to make a decision.
Right.
What am I going to do? Am I
Yeah.
going to store it?
Yeah.
Am I going to roof load it? Can I get paid for it? Do I need to take it? Do I have an escalation clause in my contract?
Right.
That kind
There
of
you
stuff.
go.
Yeah.
I want to build on this. You know, as we're talking about materials, it's funny how 4 years ago, manufacturers were dead set. Got to use this screw, this plate, this ISO, this material, this single ply. And now, I don't care who you use.
The Wild Wild West.
Just get put on. I heard the other day from a manufacturer that some people are reusing screws. That's how short it is.
Whoa.
Can you imagine what's going to happen in 10 years?
That's-
Oh
Can
my
you?
gracious.
I'm not sure I would do that.
That's
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
a disaster.
Yeah.
Just what's going to happen to the manufacturers in 10 years when we start having some claims for because we haven't had a storm in a long time.
Yeah.
We have a storm, and what's going to happen? Well, those aren't my screws. That's not my ISO. That's not my glue. That's not this. It's like, okay.
You know, I want to add something that I didn't really, I want to expand upon what a couple of these guys are saying here. The escalation clauses that we've talked about, obviously we all have to get involved in that.
I never had it before.
Material's never been that big of an issue, us commercial
Exactly.
guys, because we always had a little bit to play with.
Right.
Yep.
We always got there. And now we're entering into this world where we have to pay attention to escalation clauses in our
Right.
contracts. And I have found some very interesting information over the last 12 months. For example, there's a large amusement park being built down in Naples, Florida called Great West. I was interviewed for the project, and it was a large roofing project. It was in the $4 million range.
Wow.
And I said, look, I'd love to do this job. I know my price is in there nice and competitive, but I got to have this escalation clause.
Right.
In Great West, the big Great West says, I'll give you the money now. If you take this job and sign a contract, I'll give you the money right now. Great West doesn't understand.
Where are
They
you
can
gonna
give you
store
the
it?
money right now, but that, you know what? When they deliver it is when they send you the invoice, and it's not the same price.
No.
Yeah.
It's really a problem out there. So
Yeah.
that escalation clause is huge.
Absolutely.
Just huge. And you've got contractors really pushing back on that.
Yes.
Yep.
And they're being pushed back. Let me keep going here because
Yes.
because in the middle of all this, myself, I decided to build a building. And so, like most people, I went and got a mortgage for my building, and I'm under construction, and I also am incurring price increases. It got to the point I had to call up my banker and said, hey, I need some help because the price of my building's up 20%.
Yeah.
And he told me no.
Oh,
Whoa.
Wow.
The bankers are also a problem here.
Yeah.
Because
That's a big problem.
contractors
That's a
can't
big
accept
problem.
those escalations, right?
Yeah.
And so distribution is going to send us a bill once they ship. And who's left holding this bag is us commercial roofers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Never thought about bank. Wow.
Bankers,
Yeah,
the attorneys and
Yeah.
the contracts
Yeah.
recommending to the general contractors don't accept the escalation clauses.
Right.
You know, take it now.
Right.
Great West, guys like Great West, and what I'm really talking about is big money.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
great. I don't mean to
Right.
pick on those. I probably shouldn't even mention their names. So.
Yeah.
It's live.
But
yeah.
but they think because they're public and they got money, they think they can buy themselves out. It's like you said, we don't control the market.
No.
We don't.
Right.
We don't manufacture. We don't distribute it.
well, and they don't
such
know
a-
what they don't know. I mean, it's one of those, when you are a big conglomerate and you do have the money, you can buy your way into a lot. So it's like, oh, I'll give you the money now. It's fine. No.
They don't understand the logistics.
Right. It's like, thank you. That's a great offer, but that's not going to work.
Right.
It's one of those.
And I think it really kind of ties us back around because exactly what you're saying is if we don't have these kind of conversations and people aren't talking about it, if they're not as part of the association, if they haven't joined FRSA or involved with their local chapters that you're
Or
cheering,
they're too
then-
proud with their pride to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Some roofers are too proud.
Yeah, and so, but these are the kind of topics that need to bring together because if all contractors are saying, hey, escalation contracts or the language has to happen, then all of a sudden now people are standing together.
We're talking about the bankers. I just found out within the last couple months that the banks would rather give you a line of credit. And I thought, that's an interesting idea, because a $2 million project, by the time materials are going to be available, is going to be a $2.5 to maybe $3 million project. So when you talk to the bankers about that, they're telling the condos and the HOAs, we'll give you a line of credit. And it's based upon a lot of things. I'm not a banker.
Sure, yeah.
But when they look at that, it's an alternative if they offer it to you. Now, I think that goes from bank to bank. Maybe I'm not a banker, but
probably in a re-roofing situation where there's equity there.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't get involved with new construction, but for re-roofing, it makes a lot of sense, and it helps people out if they can do that. Now, in re-roofing, in the new construction market, you're right. When all these developers see your contract with an escalation clause, they go right to the next guy.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
All it takes is one to screw it all up for the rest of us.
Sure.
Absolutely.
That's why it's so
And it's
important.
the unsavvy, unfortunately. It's the newbies, it's the greenies, it's the people that have never been a member of FRSA. There's so many roofers out there. When I meet them, I'm like, oh, are you going to the convention? The what?
The what?
Yeah.
But
I have to work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
the
don't we all?
FRSA. Are you not a member?
Yeah.
No. Why would I join? Why wouldn't
Yeah.
you join? I do.
Many reasons.
And so these problems that have developed over the last year has really, as the leader of our company, has changed my
Perspective.
It's changed my job description.
Oh, for sure.
I spend more time now reading the terms and conditions of the subcontracts that are sent to me than I ever have in my life. I've always read contracts. I've gone line item by line item, marking things up and doing it and getting pushback from contractors and owners and developers. I can tell you what, it's a different job today than it was 12 months ago or 18 months ago.
18 months
For
ago.
sure.
And it has to be. So that's, and we are, first of all, I want to say, I love this conversation. This is so cool, the directions that this has gone. I hope everyone out there is just hearing this and how important it is. So that I want to kind of, as we close down this hour, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of the associations. I just think this is so key. You're all involved with FRSA celebrating 100 years.
100 years.
100
Wow.
years. And it started right here.
That's so cool.
1922. Right here.
1922.
Right here in Daytona Beach. In fact, half mile down the road is the original hotel.
That's so cool.
And
Joe was here.
not quite. But it's amazing that the building's still there.
Yeah.
We're going to do a photo shoot with some of the architecture that's left on the inside
Yeah.
Oh,
for
cute.
historical purposes. I think that's really
Yeah.
good. And if you've been reading the Florida Roof magazine,
Right.
every month we're running an article in there about the past 100 years.
That's so
And some
cool.
of the photographs are great.
Yeah.
And listening to all the problems that they had back in the 20s and the 30s and 40s, they're the same problems we're
Same
having
problems
today.
Yeah, it's the same
Right.
thing. It's cyclical, like
Yep.
you said.
Cyclical.
It cycles through. It
Yeah.
really does. Well, I would love to have you all share a little bit, just your story about not just FRSA, but also the local associations that you're involved in, that you guys, I know you're all involved in, but maybe just share some stories of your involvement with FRSA and what it's meant to your business and celebrating this 100 years. And Matt, I'm going to start with you.
Good. Not good that you're starting with me, but this is a good topic to talk
I like
about.
this topic.
There's before I get into the associations, because I think it's a great thing, I try to educate every customer, even if they don't use me. If I lose a bid, call me back, let me know what it was.
Yeah.
Number one, I want the feedback from them so I can maybe gain an edge on the competition. But two, that doesn't sound right. That's why it's cheaper. I just want to let them know. I wouldn't do it if, and I'm a building owner, have commercial properties. I'm a homeowner, have multiple homes. So I can give you both perspectives of what I would do if it was my roof. Associations, absolutely imperative to get involved with either your local affiliate or with FRSA. It's $1,000 a year, give or take. I think $775 to maybe $2,500, depending on the size of your company. Spend it. It's worth it. If you don't know, I think Bridget, you said they don't know. If you don't know what it is, just pick up the phone, call Lisa Pate.
Right.
She'll chew your ear off for a half hour.
Oh, for sure.
If you want to talk
Yeah.
to Mike Silver, she'll chew your ear off for 3 hours. He'll tell you exactly why to get involved with it. It's more than just dues and meeting a couple times a year. there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that they don't know about. There's so many different types of codes, updates. There's so many different publications and paperwork and tools, resources, all of that kind of stuff within FRSA. So if at least you don't do your local, do FRSA.
Right.
Yeah.
So important.
And then it goes on to NRCA too.
Of course,
you know? So you once you get involved with one, I think you should get involved with most of them.
It's where all the advocacy comes
That's
from.
it.
I mean, right here is this is what it's all about. Joe?
Well, that investment Matt was talking about, it's minimal. What do you get out of it? Or I'll say what I get out of it. Since I've been involved with the FRSA since the 80s, I've gotten a lot of knowledge from my peers. I love getting these to the conventions and the code committee meetings or all our committee meetings. I meet people, we talk, we discuss, what do you do in your area, what do you do in your area.
Yeah.
I gain a lot of knowledge over the years. I mean, it was worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
In fact, I should probably be paying that.
You're not fighting with the next contractor.
Yeah.
Right.
You're sitting with them and having structural conversations. And Joe, you've been in it for a long time. How many friends do you have in this association?
Uncountless.
You wouldn't have gotten them if you didn't spend $1,000 or whatever it is, right?
But the other thing about that, Matt, is there's not a person in the state of Florida that is a member that I can't pick up the phone and call them if I have a question
There you go.
or if I need help.
There you go.
I'll give you a good example. Probably about 15, 18 years ago, some people broke into my warehouse and stole all my equipment. And it was my local fellow roofers that actually.
No.
This is back before Facebook and all that stuff, right? But the word went out that Joe was in need, and my fellow roofers, my competitors, they called me up and they said, "Hey, don't you have a job going? You need a couple heat welders?" Yeah, I do.
Wow.
I'll give them to you. I said, I'll rent them from you. No. And that's what's great about it.
Yeah.
It's the roofing community. Now, I'm talking about the legitimate guys.
Right,
We're
of
all
course.
professionals, okay?
Right.
True.
And that's what happens. They come to your aid.
Yeah.
And like I said, that
Would have been
money-
better if they called you and said, "We found your stuff.
Right, that's
Try to sell
cooler.
it to me right
That
now."
would be-
Trust me, I hit all the pawn shops and everything.
Go find it.
But the money is really nothing. It's the camaraderie, meeting the people, talking to them.
Yeah.
That's really great.
It's really.
And we have a bunch. My theme this year was celebrating 100 years of the FRSA and the American roofer.
Yeah.
And I think we have the best roofers in the country.
For sure.
I mean, American roofers, they're the best. We just need to get more educated in the industry. I'm old, I'm on my way out, and somebody needs to replace me.
But a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
But trying to get the people in there to do that, and that's one good thing about the local and the state association.
Right.
Yeah. It brings it all together.
Yeah.
Bridget?
So I have a different perspective all along the same lines, but my entire family is in roofing. My dad is one of 6 brothers, 6 boys. So there are 6 roofing companies, 1 metal manufacturing company within my dad and my uncles in my family. So I grew up within the industry with cousins, with competition always. And so it's this interesting when I talk to other roofers and you need to join the FRSA and I'm trying to help them, and they don't understand that healthy competition.
Right.
And they don't understand that I'm trying to help you because helping you helps me. And if we're all at the same level, then we're all leveling up together. Right. And having grown up that way, I didn't even, it doesn't dawn on you that people don't just lift each other up, because it's just my family.
Yeah.
And we always lift each other up. And the competition, McDonald's is always right next to Burger King. Hello.
Yep.
And so, having FRSA and having the relationships, and you brought up people being too proud, people being a little more humble, treating each other with a little bit more grace, and really being a community, and realizing that if I lose a job to you, it's because there was something that spoke to them with you and they're more comfortable with you. By all means, go with him. 100%. It's apples to apples. You like his apples, go for it.
Right.
If it's apples to oranges,
there's
the problem.
Let's sort it out. Right.
Right. And so, having FRSA and growing up within the industry and bringing more kids into the industry, even if I was never going to be a roofer, y'all, ever, I was going to teach and save the world one child at a time. I had dreams. And I taught for a few years, and when I started to have children, I realized, oh wait, I can't actually see my own children when I'm taking care of others. And I'd always had my foot in the door with roofing, but realizing what an opportunity it is for mothers to be in the roofing industry, I can be done at 2:15 because it's too hot, and be in car line. I can take that day off. It's raining, sweet. I'm gonna go do PTA stuff. I can't be out on the roof. Score. Some people go to the bar. Some of us go to PTA. It is what it is. But it's that.
That's more trying these days, anyhow, isn't it?
Right, exactly. And it's that community, and being a member of a community. You pay to join, but you can make it what you want it to be. You can come to the once a year thing and not see the value in it, and that's kind of your problem. If you don't sit down with a bunch of people and just start talking to them like we are, if you don't sit down and make these relationships, you are a ship alone in that really bad ocean. I want as many ships around me as possible to help me out, because like you said, when I lose all my tools, roofers have the biggest hearts, and I always say that roofers have the biggest hearts, very deep pockets too. So for charitable reasons, it's always good. But roofers love people unconditionally and forever. And so once you get them on your side, they're yours forever. And so I think that that's so important for people to really realize that this is not just some random convention. Yeah, there's got great swag, but it's a place to really build your family, your friends that you make family, and really build that community. Because
well said.
Wow, thank you.
So true. And you said something earlier. You said that you used to come to the kids' events, right, when you were a kid. And now I know when you and I were talking, you're like, okay, tell me the date because I want to make sure our kids get into the kids' events. Right.
Like tonight, they're bringing a semi-truck with video games for the kids tonight, which is unbelievable.
I love it.
And as a kid growing up, that was during hot mopping days, and they used to give away
still here.
I know, but still, they used to give away these little mops as a kid, and they were the best. They're the best swag to get. And I mean, even still, I know it's John's Manville, but as a kid, I called it John Mansville. And there's a couple things that as a kid I would always say, and I was never corrected. I was like 8. So even as an adult, I say things and I'm like, oh, so unprofessional. That was not the way to say those words. So it's, but having your kids here, because even if they don't want to be a roofer, they learn things, and they probably will eventually get into the industry one way or another, if not for their own homes.
Both of my kids said they were never going to have anything to do with roofing, and now they both work with RoofersCoffeeShop.
Yay!
Hey, David, tell us your story.
Well, I got a unique story.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I grew up in a family business that didn't put a whole lot of value in roofing associations, and they just didn't. It's just the way they were. And so when I broke off 15 years ago or so, I got involved in the local Roofing Contractors Association. So I remember going to my first meeting, and it was interesting because the very first meeting was a lunch meeting. And I showed up, and I was with another guy, and we sat down, kind of listened. It's my first meeting, and I'm wondering what to expect. And they were talking about shutting it down because they couldn't get participation. And they all talked about, well, it was because of the internet. Nobody wants to come to meetings anymore because of the internet. And if you want to know something, you can just Google it really quick, right? So it was interesting. So I was like, so my first meeting, we're talking about shutting things down. So I kind of raised my hand. I said, well, what if somebody was still interested? Right? So needless to say, I ended up the president the next year.
Of course.
And so I ended up being president for, 3 or 4 years, and I'm still involved at the local level. But interesting enough, learning or coming from an atmosphere of being taught not to go, or there's not much value there, don't waste your time, don't waste your money, to go into it, to running it, participating all the way up at the local level to the state level, and then obviously going with Miss Hall, Tammy Hall, up at the national level was absolutely phenomenal. And I just don't think some people understand how big this industry is, and how strong we can actually become, and how we can actually make a difference. And so and again, I think that's what it's all about, is making a difference, and because we all need roofs. We all need them every 20 years.
That's right.
And so,
well, if we weren't in the roofing market, we'd all be swimming pool builders.
Right. Way better. Well, roofs as far as the eye can see. That's always, my dad would always say that when they're like, you have all this competition. He's like, there are roofs It's like dentists.
Yeah.
Everyone has teeth. You can have 5 dentists on one corner, and they're all busy. So it works.
Everybody has a roof.
Right.
Everyone needs one. I have to tell you, you guys just make my heart sing, because my first regional show was in 1994, and it was FRSA. And I remember coming here and being brought in by Morris Swoop and his family.
Oh, yes, the Swoops, of course.
And they, just you should move from Oregon to be in Florida and all those kind of things. And today I feel the exactly same way almost 30 years later. So this is a spectacular state and an amazing association. So thank you. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you for having us. What an honor.
I think I have kind of the chills. I'm so excited about this.
It's the air conditioner that's down.
It is lovely.
So thank you. And we will do this again next year, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
A little podcast.
Very fun.
Probably, or maybe at Roofing Day.
Yeah.
Count me in.
Something.
Thank
okay.
you.
Yes.
We're good. And thank you all for being here on this live Coffee Conversations. If you didn't get so much out of this one, you never will, because this group, the conversation we had today, I'm just wowed. I am wowed. And you can find all of this, as always, with all of our coffee shop shows on Roofers Coffee Shop under the RLW initiative. You can also find this on the podcast channel. So go to your favorite podcast channel, subscribe, get your notifications, and don't miss a single one. We're going to be coming back with more interviews, but we're done with Coffee Conversations. So have a great day. And we'll